Welcome everyone to the Defender for Cloud in the field. Again, thanks for your audience. Thanks for you all that subscribe to Microsoft Security Channel, aka link below. Make sure to go visit, hit the bell to receive notifications when new videos are uploaded. And in today's episode, we are going to continue to expand our conversation about the new GCP connector. More around workload protection and different things that we are doing on this connector. And to talk about this, we have a very special guest with us for the first time in the show, Netta Norman.
Hi, Yuri.
Hello, Netta. Thank you very much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Netta, before we move on to some questions about this episode, give us a brief overview about what you do for Microsoft, what your position, and some of the projects that you are working on.
Sure. My name is Netta Norman. I'm a product manager in Microsoft Defender for Cloud in the area of servers protection. So some of my projects these days are around the new integration of Microsoft Defender for Cloud with the new Azure Monitor agent, some OS level recommendations like missing OS updates, endpoint protection solutions, baseline configuration. And the main focus of my work in the past few months was the servers offering for multi-cloud. And that's what we are going to talk about today.
Yeah, pretty big stuff and a lot of cool things. We had Or recently on the show talking about the GCP connector, and it's very important that we expand this to really dive into more details about the workload protection experience. So let's start talking about the Arc auto provisioning for those workloads. So when we connect with GCP, we have the capability to also onboard servers that are located in GCP. And Arc is a fundamental part of the solution. And we do our Arc auto provisioning. But the question is, there is any prerequisite for Arc auto provisioning to work?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So yes, indeed, as you said, Arc is our actually vehicle to the OS layer on the other side, on the other cloud. And on GCP, specifically in GCP, the prerequisite for that on GCP side is the OS config agent. This is actually a tool on GCP side that we are leveraging in order to install the Arc agent on the GCP VM instances.
And should I install this agent or on GCP side manually, or will Defender for Cloud install for me?
So actually, in most cases, you won't have any need to install it. It comes pre-installed on most of the distros. If it's not, then you have a way to install it manually on GCP side. We won't install it on behalf of the user because it may lead to additional charges. But in most of the distros, it is already installed.
And talking about pricing. When we connect to GCP via the connector, right now the connector is in preview, so most of the capabilities are free. But when it comes to workload protection, right, and we are onboarding servers, will server plan lead to additional pricing on the GCP side?
Yeah. So first of all, the servers plan in Azure will have a cost of $15 per server per month, as it is for Azure, because the content that is available on top of that is already GA and available today. This will be only machines that are connected to Arc will be charged. On GCP side, the cost that is involved in this integration is dependent on the OS config agent. The OS config agent has a certain cost on GCP side. It is also documented in GCP docs. And as I said, it comes pre-installed on most of the images. And in case it doesn't exist, we won't install it on behalf of the user. But the cost on GCP side is per active OS config agent. So there might be certain cases where the agent is installed, but not active. In this case, we will activate the agent. So we won't install it on GCP side, but we will activate it if it's there and inactive. And by this, it may lead to additional cost of the OS config agent on GCP side.
Okay, interesting. When we do this onboarding, let's say we configure the GCP connector, everything is already onboarded. The Arc was auto provision and everything. How long it should take until all my GCP VMs are provisioning with Arc? I mean, in average.
Yeah.
I know that can vary, but like, do we have like an average?
Yeah, actually, yes. So as you said, the whole process is designed to be easy. So by default, everything is enabled and installed automatically. And specifically, the Arc installation and specifically on GCP should take about 20 minutes until all of the instances on GCP side will be provisioned successfully with Arc, as long as they have the OS config agent.
Okay. Does that also include the vulnerability assessment, or let's say the vulnerability assessment will take a little bit more time? In other words, do I have another recommendation for VA that I need to install first and then it deploys for me?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the other extensions on top of Arc, and I'll show it in the demo. The other extensions will be provisioned after the Arc is connected. So on top of these 20 minutes to install Arc, then the process of installing the additional extensions will be triggered, and then it may take additional few hours, depends on the specific extension, until it's fully deployed.
Okay, in summary, is very similar to the experience that we have even in Azure, right? Because in Azure it's basically the same thing. All right, good.
Yeah,
we are keeping consistency across the different cloud solutions. All right, so let's move on to the demo and see how those things work.
Yeah. Okay, so actually, before I drill down into the demo, I just wanted to have a framing of what is the security content that is going to be available for multi-cloud. So this slide actually just captures the main content items and actually shows that this list of content items, the integration with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, vulnerability assessment, and all the rest, are actually available on top of Arc already today for any AWS, GCP, on-prem machine, or any other cloud that decides to install or to connect to Azure Arc. And this bridge of Azure Arc is actually what we were working to automate with one single click of the Arc onboarding. And then once the machines are connected to Arc, all of these content items will be available for these Arc connected machines. Each one of them has the dependency of the specific extension, as our customers are already familiar with from Azure. So the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint has its own extension, vulnerability assessment solution as well, if it's a TVM or Qualys extension. And the REST items, the VM behavioral alerts, OS level recommendations, adaptive application controls, and file integrity monitoring, these are dependent on the log analytics agent. In addition, we have a new item that is coming soon, which is JIT. And JIT will be available soon in AWS without any dependency on any agent or extension.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks for putting together this summarized list. Now let's jump into the dashboard and take a look on some of those capabilities.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll start my demo from actually adding a new account or a new GCP project. So this is a process that was shared here several times before, I guess. So I add the connector details. I have a new GCP project ready here for demo. So I'll add the project number and ID. And move forward to the select plans page. So here, as you can see, everything is actually enabled and on by default. So our users can just click on X and everything is already configured and will work. But I want to deep dive into the configuration in the servers plan. So as you can see, and this is actually a new view that should be available within a few days. So I'm sharing it with you prior to the release. So in the new view, we can see that we have 4 out of 4 components that are available in the configuration. When I click on the configure button, I'll see the configuration details. So everything starts with the Azure Arc agent, because as we said, this is our bridge to the OS level on the other side, and actually allows us to provide deeper insights. So this is enabled by default. And as we mentioned before, this is dependent on the OS config agent on GCP side. So when this is enabled, every instance on GCP side that has the OS config agent will be provisioned with Azure Arc. It is also important to mention that in order to enable it, the user that is creating this process or that's creating the connector should be an owner on the subscription. In case the user is not owner but contributor, this will be disabled and we'll have a notification that says the permissions are not sufficient to enable Arc auto provisioning, and then the user will receive later a relevant recommendation that reminds him to enable it, because this is our best practice. So this is the Arc auto provisioning configuration that, as I said, enabled by default. Then on top of Arc, as we mentioned earlier, we have additional extensions that are necessary in order to provide the additional content items. So we actually have 3 different required extensions, and the user can choose which ones to enable and which ones not. By default, all of them are enabled because we want to provide our users all of the content without any specific configuration. So the items here are the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint extension, the Vulnerability Assessment extension that by default is configured to TVM, but users can also change it to Qualys extension, and Log Analytics extension. The reason that Log Analytics extension, as you can see here, it's currently grayed out, is because we don't yet have this granularity in the AWS account or GCP project level. So currently, this configuration is determined by the subscription settings. So this is grayed out, but actually reflects the status on the subscription. So it inherits the definitions. And our next step will be to enable this one as well in the account or project level.
Okay, that's great. Very self-explanatory, easy to operate. Great.
Yeah. Okay, so if I like, I can turn any of them off. As I said, by default, they're all on. In this case, I didn't change anything, and I'll go next to the configure access. I know that we have shared before this flow of running the script. I want to show a specific step that is relevant specifically for the Arc auto provisioning configuration. So our service to install Arc on the GCP instances is dependent on a specific resource on the GCP side that is necessary for this auto provisioning component. And in order to authenticate, we are using a unique ID that is generated on GCP side only after running the script. So here I'm running the gcloud script that I've copied from Microsoft Defender for Cloud. This is running on GCP side and actually generating the service account that has this unique numeric ID. If you can see here, our users will be asked to enter here the service account unique numeric ID that is generated on GCP side. We have an info bubble to explain exactly where to find it, and this is available. It's always available on GCP portal, but in order to save time and clicks, we made sure to actually surface this unique ID already in the script output. So when it finishes running, we'll be able to see it. Okay, so the script is done running, and you can see that in the script results, we have at the last line an instruction to copy the following value and paste it back to Azure. So now I go back, paste it here. If I close the terminal, no worries. We still have instructions on how to find it or how to locate this value on GCP side. It's just a few clicks. And that's it. We are creating the connector, and a new connector will be created. So I think we can now move forward to the next part of the demo after we created the new connector.
Yep.
We have a new security connector created successfully. Okay, great. So within, as I said, about 20 minutes, I should see already all the new Arc resources that were created on top of the GCP instances. You won't wait this time now. I've prepared another project ahead, so we'll have examples ready. And I want to show it to you on the Arc area in the portal. So now I go to Arc and I can see here all of the instances that were created on top of my multi-cloud accounts. I'll take one, for example, from GCP. So this is a new Arc resource that was created on a GCP VM instance. The name here reflects the instance ID. We are planning, by the way, to add here the instance name. For now, it's instance ID. And as you can see, we have here a few tags that were imported and mention the cloud, the instance name on GCP side, the instance ID, the project ID, and the project number. And if I go to the extensions, I will see that on top of this newly created Arc resource, we have already provisioned successfully the MD extension for Linux and the log analytics agent. So both of them are already installed.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah. So I want to go back to Microsoft Defender for Cloud and to show you what happens in case the Arc resource is not installed with the auto provisioning. It might be because the user decided not to enable the auto provisioning. Sorry. Might happen because the user decided not to enable the Arc auto provisioning for any reason. Or in case the auto provisioning is enabled, but the resource is missing the prerequisite, the OS config agent. So in this case, we have a new recommendation to install the Azure Arc agent on GCP VM instances. I will go here, and then I'll see my healthy resources are the ones that are connected to Arc already. The unhealthy are the ones that are not connected. And then I have a fix option that is similar to additional fix processes that we have for multi-cloud. I can choose a certain resource, click on fix, and this will generate for me. I'll need to enter the operating system type, and this will generate for me the remediation script. So once I download the remediation script, I have a new file downloaded to my computer, and I just need to run it on my machine, and it will connect the machine to Arc. We have an option to do it also manually, and we instruct users how to do it in the remediation steps through the Azure Arc blades in the portal. But since we already have most of the information on where the machine should be installed, we actually saved a few clicks here, so it's actually much easier and faster to use the remediation script.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But the remediation script, you still have to go and run on the GCP VM, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. So I want to show you 2 examples of the content that will be provided on top of the connected machines. After the machine is connected to Arc and provisioned successfully with the relevant prerequisite on Azure side, I would like to show you the vulnerability assessment recommendation that actually surfaced the vulnerabilities. Okay, so I go to the remediate vulnerabilities control and choose the recommendation to resolve vulnerability findings. In here, I can see all of the unhealthy resources that were actually detected with vulnerabilities on them. You can see here that I have resources from several different types. I have Azure VMs, I have on-prems that are connected to Arc, I have GCP or AWS. All of them appear under the same recommendation. If I click on the resource, I'll see the the vulnerability is available on it or detected on it, but I can also scroll down and go to the findings. And if I choose a specific finding and click on it, I can see the details about the specific vulnerability detected. What are the CVEs attached to it? What is the severity of this vulnerability and the affected resources. So in this specific case, I can see that this specific vulnerability was detected on an on-prem machine and AWS machine. So all of them are available in the same recommendation.
That's awesome. That's great that we have now this capability to see vulnerabilities across different clouds into a single dashboard. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So
Okay.
that was a really good demo, Netta. Appreciate the time that you took to put this together. And also congratulations for the future. I know that you've been working on this for a long time,
Thanks.
you and the team. So
Yeah.
really glad that came to fruition. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Yuri.
All right.
See you soon.
For sure. That's a wrap for today's episode. Again, thank you very much for your audience. Make sure to subscribe, link below, and see you next time.